Facing a loss is one of the most difficult experiences a family can go through, and it's what we'll be talking about in this video. Now, surrogacy, it can come with immense joys, but it can also come with very, very deep sorrows, like the one that we experienced during our second surrogacy journey. In this clip, I'm going to open up and share more about our loss with our egg donor, Ariana, who is uniquely connected to all of this. And I wouldn't want to be opening up about this to anyone else except her. So this one's going to be a tough one, you guys. And Ariana, I love you. Thank you for being such a support during this time.
Totally. And thank you for sharing that with us. I remember when you were going through that, and I was devastated for you because I could only imagine how you both were feeling, all of you. And something to note too that I learned is like 1 in 4 people experience a loss, a miscarriage, 1 in 4 pregnancies. And I'm like, that is like a huge percentage and something that nobody is talking about. Like, once you start opening those lines of communication, I've heard of so many people in our life who had experienced that. Some people multiple times. And it's like, how have I lived my life knowing these people for years and never known that? And then wasn't able to be there to support them. It's almost like you're stuck suffering and feeling this grief and going through this loss by yourself because we'd feel shame and not comfortable sharing. It's so sad and so difficult, and I was thankful you shared it with us because, we could send our thoughts and love to you and just really think about you and help to try to let you know that you weren't alone in that.
I'm going to open up and be a little vulnerable here. And trigger warning, if you are uncomfortable talking about death, talking about funerals, please skip this, jump to the next video, because I'll be talking about those topics. And as you all know, we did have a loss and we had to go through them. Now, our loss was in the second trimester. And if you don't know what that means, neither did we, but it means that your child is developed enough that the surrogate still has to give birth. So we still had to go to a hospital. We still had to go through the birthing process. But of course, it was a devastating and very emotional period for both me, Stefan, and for our surrogate. Um, Sorry, this is still tough to talk about. Um, when the surrogate did give a stillbirth, we were able to spend time with our little marshmallow. That's what we called them when they were in our surrogate's belly. And we said our goodbyes and we all grieved together. And then we had to go and have our funeral and our goodbyes. We went to a crematorium and we had to pick through urns, which was so difficult. It's not something anyone should ever have to go through, but people do. And that's why I'm talking about this, to show people that they're not alone. And while it is very uncommon to have a loss in the second trimester, it does happen. And hopefully, with me and Ariana talking about loss and about the stigmas associated with it, other people will be able to open up or at least find some comfort in knowing that they aren't alone.
But what is that process like? Because we talk about like the great times of having a surrogate, having the embryo implantation take right away, getting pregnant, boom, you have a baby. But when that doesn't work out every time, um, what is that process like?
Yeah, it's I mean, obviously it's so difficult on everyone because I think people take on personal guilt, especially our surrogate, and
Yeah,
no fault of her own, but you feel this level of responsibility because you're doing a service out of the goodness of your heart for someone else and it doesn't work out. So uh,
totally.
she was feeling down, we were feeling down, and I'd say the biggest loss for us was just we had pictured, and I'm sure most people do, pictured our vision of the future with another child and just what our
Mhm.
family would be. So it
Yeah.
was having to reel that back and just changing our direction when we kind of maybe thought a little too far ahead or were a little too optimistic that it was going
Mhm.
to happen. But
Yeah.
that stat that you shared is wild. 1 in 4. Like,
Wild.
we don't hear about that growing up. So you
Mhm.
just expect it that it works for everyone.
Totally. And I think, like, it's movies, it's people's experience, all of that plays a role in your thoughts and your beliefs in something like parenthood or pregnancy or birth. But it's true, like, in high school, you're like, "Oh, somebody has sex one time and they get pregnant."
Yeah.
So, like,
Or
"Oh, it
you
must be
eat a
easy."
watermelon seed, pregnant
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah, literally, like, it's like this thing that we hear that side, but we don't hear the other side about the difficulties or the struggles that people might have. And I think it's easy for people to put blame on themselves too. Like you even said with the surrogate, like obviously it wasn't her
Yeah,
fault. She didn't
exactly.
do anything wrong, but you do hold guilt for sure. Which is just so terrible and so sad. Well, thank you for sharing that with us because I know that that's so difficult. Um, did you find support through the clinic that you used? Like, what was their process if that happens?
Um,
Sorry if that's a bad
no,
question.
no, it's okay. I feel like they need to work on their automated email flows a little better
Oh,
because
no.
we got emails saying that congratulations, you're so far along, and things had ended, and they knew very well that they had ended. So that was just not very well done on their
No.
part.
That's
I
so
mean, they
awful.
did what they could to reach out with us to us with like phone calls and whatnot, but the
Mhm.
real support we got were from friends and family, like the people who are closest to you. Sharing that story was extremely difficult, but I'm glad we did it. That's the whole reason we've been so public with our surrogacy journey is we want to make the process known, and not all parts of the process go as planned, and unfortunately this one didn't for us. But the whole part of this journey is to impact others going through this journey. So if you want to hear about how we are impacting others by sharing this journey so publicly, make sure you watch the next video.